a year during their careers? Well, according to a national study of millionaires by Ramsey Solutions, just 31%. What's even more shocking is that in the same study, it was revealed that 79% of millionaires didn't receive any inheritance at all from their parents or other family members. So what is it that us secret millionaires know that most people don't? And how can you become one of us? Well, there are 4 important questions you need to ask yourself. Once you can answer yes to these questions, you're on the right path to becoming a millionaire, even on a low salary. Let me explain. So, when it comes to your finances, there are only 2 levers that you have control over: your income and your expenses. This looks pretty simple, right? Well, the facts say the opposite, as more than half of Americans earning over $100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck, as their expenses are just too high. It doesn't really matter if you're on a high or low salary, you just need to be able to work these levers correctly in order to create positive cash flow. Let's play a little game. Do you think an 18-year-old that has a positive cash flow of $250 per month will retire a millionaire? Yes, he'll actually be worth around $1.1 million. How about a 25-year-old with a positive cash flow of $500 a month? Yep, they would be worth even more at a whopping $1.3 million. Okay, here's the last one. A 50-year-old with a positive cash flow of $3,000 per month. Actually, no, they'd get very close, but they'll only make it to about $950,000. This shows why it's so important to start thinking about this stuff while you're young. These calculations were based on 3 different factors. 1, their positive cash flow is saved every month. 2, they get an average yearly return of 7% on their savings. Now, you won't get this from a savings account, but it is the average return of the S&P 500. We'll get into that later. And 3, they retire at 65 years old. So, what is the best lever to focus on to create positive cash flow? Well, let's first talk about your expenses. I know it's not sexy, but if you start using one of those money tracking apps, you'll probably be shocked at how many tiny payments are going out of your account each month. Just think about all those subscriptions you don't even use. Those alone may add up to over $30 a month. I'm not saying to cancel the stuff you actually use, just the things you don't really care about. One of the biggest financial burdens for most people is high interest debt, particularly credit card debt. It's crucial to eliminate this debt as soon as possible. Imagine if I told you you could invest and earn a return of 27% per year. You'd probably laugh at me, but credit card companies charge you this crazy interest rate year after year. So stop allowing them to drain your finances and start using credit cards to your advantage. Pay off your balance in full each and every month. Improve your credit score and earn points that can be redeemed for free flights. Most online gurus would stop there and not even talk about the other lever, but this one, this is my favorite. I've not always been the best at saving. I didn't go silly when I was younger, but I did have a pretty awesome life. I traveled the world, I learned to fly aeroplanes, raced cars, and provided a great life for my family. I can do this because I have a talent for effectively leveraging the income lever. I highly recommend that you also spend more time using this lever. Unlike counting the pennies, the potential to earn money is unlimited. Question 2, do you split your income strategically? Did you know that a surprising 49% of people earning more than $100,000 a year have no money left at the end of each month? The truth is, building wealth has a huge component that most people are completely unaware of, and that's the income split strategy. This is how I suggest you split your main income source. For most people, this will be the money you earn from your job. Now, ideally, you want to be spending 50% on your basic needs. These are the things that are essential for your survival. And no, I don't mean your Netflix subscription. These expenses include housing, utilities, food, transportation, and healthcare. Obviously, these do depend on your personal circumstances. However, it's important to be very honest with this, as the only person you'll be cheating is yourself. Next, you want to be spending 30% on your wants. This includes things like eating out, getting the latest video games, and going to events with your friends. This is the category that most people don't limit, and this is a huge mistake. Even though I earn millions every single year, I still limit the percentage I spend on the stuff I want. I know that if I want more, then I need to make more and not use a higher percentage of my income on these things. That's because the most important part is the last 20%. This should be invested. I've heard others use the word save, but I have a real problem with that. Too many people save money to buy something like the latest iPhone or a vacation away with their friends. This isn't what this 20% is for. Investing is very different from saving because the goal is to buy assets that go up in value or generate passive income, or ideally both. This can include investing in skill development, stocks and shares, timepieces, and real estate. Using this method, it's very possible to turn a small salary into millions, but it can be incredibly slow. We're talking decades. That's why I think you should take things one step further and build an additional income stream by starting a side hustle. Starting a side hustle is powerful because once you have the right income split, you can invest all the excess money. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. It speeds everything up. If you invest this extra side hustle income and get an average annual return of 10%, then each dollar you earn now will be worth $4.45 in 15 years. It's truly the key to supercharging your earnings. So question 3, do you have a side hustle? But Mark, why should I have to start a side hustle when I already work a full-time job? My boss should just pay me more. Well, if you're earning a low salary, there are only a few reasons why this is the case. The first could be your job isn't perceived as valuable, and the second is your system, and then reinforced by parents who are stuck in the past. While it might have been true in my time, it's not the reality anymore. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that studying is a waste of time. Many degrees are very useful, and the student experience is unforgettable. However, relying solely on a degree to make you rich isn't the right approach. That's why it's so important for students to start some kind of side hustle that has the ability to grow into something much bigger in the future. Look, I wasn't wealthy enough to be able to afford university or probably academically smart enough, but I always had side hustles. Ultimately, my side hustles turned into multi-million-dollar businesses and made me a millionaire. That's why today I'm going to dive into 7 side hustles students can start this year. To be honest, these can actually apply to anyone, anywhere in the world. And because I hate those silly videos that just regurgitate the same list of side hustle ideas, I'm actually going to share real life examples of people smashing it and rate them out of 5 in these important categories. How much time it takes to learn, how much money you need, and how difficult it is to make $1,000 per month. Side hustle idea number 1. Faceless short form content. This is Daniel Bitton. Like many of you, he started using social media for fun at the age of 13. Now at 16, he's earning $500,000 every single month creating short form content on Snapchat without even showing his face. It sounds unbelievable, but it's completely true. My son Curtis actually bumped into him at LAX airport, and after doing some research, I can assure you, he's not capping. So why can you make so much money doing this? Well, at the moment, there's a huge war going on between Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. During the pandemic, TikTok became so popular and grabbed the attention of the world. Since then, all the different social media platforms have been competing for this attention, as the more eyes they have on their app, the more money they can make from advertisers. Stick with me because this is where it all starts coming together. The one thing these platforms need more than anything else is content creators. And what attracts the best creators better than anything else? Money, because we all like a little bit of that. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, but once a platform is established at the top, competition will decrease along with the payouts. So you'll need to jump in on this one quickly if you want to be making close to $500,000 a month, just like Daniel. The people that are paid the most are those that create original content rather than just cutting up other people's content from YouTube. Daniel does this by using existing videos, but then adding different voiceovers, music, and edits. This strategy, combined with consistent posting, led to extreme growth. He then expanded with multiple channels in various niches to attract diverse audiences. So for example, one of his channels is about rapper updates and the others is focused on live streamers. Now for those important ratings. I'll give this a 4 out of 5. Although making short clips may seem quick and easy, there's a lot more that goes into it than you might first think. Saying this, if you regularly watch TikTok or Shorts, then you'll be better prepared than most. Creating short form clips is a lot more about understanding human psychology than it is about fancy editing. If you can create a great hook and build towards some kind of payoff at the end, you'll increase the watch time. This is the only trick you need to know if you want your videos to go viral and earn you lots of money. Trust me, I've managed to get 7 million followers on TikTok using this exact strategy. The best way to teach yourself this is to watch short form content on a daily basis. Make it part of your routine. This might sound different from what many people my age will tell you, but I'm not talking about using it for entertainment. Every time you stop and watch a short, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. What intrigued me enough to stop scrolling and watch the whole thing? Make a list in your notes app, and before you know it, you'll have a ton of different winning ideas. Secondly, how much money do you need? I'll give this 1 out of 5, because if you have a phone and an internet connection, then you can get started, and if you're watching this video, then I'd assume you've got both of those things. Thirdly, how easy is it to make $1,000 per month? I'll give this a 1 out of 5. As I mentioned, social media platforms are handing out cash like there's no tomorrow. Just think, to make $1,000 a month, all you'd have to do is be 0.2% as good as Daniel. Now, if you don't think that's achievable, then you need to believe in yourself a bit more. Idea 2, investing. A lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, as it's technically not a side hustle. However, it makes me around about $17,000 per week, so I thought it was definitely worth a mention. It's taken me a lot of years to build up to that. However, I've managed to do it all on my own without a financial advisor charging me commission on every investment. It's really not as complicated as people make out. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor, and investments can go up as well as down, but my dollar cost averaging strategy has worked wonders for me over the years. This is when you consistently buy into the market, no matter if it's high or low. Over time, the idea is that the price you buy the stock at averages out. You can do this with pretty much any stock you want. However, the real secret weapon has to be index funds. If you were to invest $200 a month for 40 years and get an average return of 10% per year, then you'll have over $1.2 million. I know what you're thinking. How on earth am I going to make a 10% return? You're out of touch, old man. Well, of course, past results are no guarantee of future returns. However, over the last 10 years, the average annual return of the S&P 500 was 11%. Okay, but I don't want to wait 40 years to become a millionaire. This is exactly how you should be thinking. I didn't want to wait until I was old and grey either. I went out and made quick money through my side hustles, started a business and made millions, all while investing around half of my earnings and multiplying it in the stock market. It's not a choice between one or the other. You really should consider doing both at the same time. Now let's get on to the ratings. Oh, I've forgotten the photo. Let's use that one. Firstly, how much time does investing take to learn? I'll give this a 1 out of 5 because, as I said, the basics are extremely simple. I've got multiple videos on my channel breaking down the core concepts like passive income, the different types of accounts to open, and my favorite, index funds. Once you master the tricky words, you'll see that it's really simple, especially with different investment apps allowing you to automate your investments every single month, so you don't even have to think about them. My favorite for this kind of thing is Trading 212, so I reached out to them to see if they'd be interested in sponsoring this section of the video. They agreed and are also offering a free stock worth up to £100 to anyone that uses the code Tilbury when they create an account and deposit as little as £1. If you're a beginner, then definitely check out their pies feature, as you can have a look at what other people are investing their money in and then either create your own pie or just copy theirs. You can then set it to auto invest for you as often as you like, and your money will be split between the different stocks in your pie. Secondly, how much money do you need? I'll give this a 1 out of 5 because you can start with as little as $1. I don't suggest you put all of your money into stocks though. Make sure you're investing it back into your side hustle as well. And thirdly, how easy is it to make $1,000 per month? I'll give this a 1 out of 5. As for me, I don't have to do anything, it's just easy. However, it took me a lot of years of consistency to get to this stage. In my opinion, investing should always be paired with a side hustle that generates you fast money. Side hustle idea 3 Discord building. This is Chris Peters, and he's on track to make $15,000 a month from building and managing Discord servers, and he's only 19 years old. I remember first chatting with Chris a couple of years ago. He must have been about 17 at the time. I had just started my free Discord group and had absolutely no idea what I was doing. He messaged me and offered to help me for free, so I took him up on that offer and he completely revamped my server. By the way, I am still running the free Discord group, and I'll drop a link in the description below if you want to join us. Over the years, I've been more and more impressed with Chris's work ethic and quick thinking, so it's fair to say I'm not letting him work for free anymore. If you don't know, Discord is basically this all-in-one communication hub with text, voice and video chats. It started off just for gamers, but now it's pretty versatile, used by all sorts of communities and businesses. There's a huge opportunity here because as the usage of Discord increases, there are people like me a few years ago who have no idea how to operate it. It's complex enough to confuse a beginner, particularly those of an older generation, but simple enough for a youngster to learn in a short amount of time. I mean, Chris started his Discord business while he was still at school sitting his GCSE exams, and I was one of his first clients. Just remember to offer huge value up front before asking for any kind of payment. If you do good work and make yourself indispensable, you'll start earning big. Now it's time for those ratings. Firstly, how much time does Discord take to learn? I'd give this a 2.5 out of 5, as you can get to grips with the basics in a couple of hours. However, to do the really complicated stuff, it may take a bit longer depending on how tech savvy you are. I asked Chris for his top tip for learning Discord skills, and he said it's important to join multiple communities. This way, you can learn what makes a successful server. Secondly, how much money do you need? I'd rate this a 1 out of 5. You can get started with just your computer. Although finding clients, planning community features and customizing the Discord servers to fit your client's niche may take time, in the early days, you should be able to manage all of this stuff yourself. Thirdly, how easy is it to make $1,000 per month? I'd rate this a 1 out of 5. Let's look at the numbers. Now, assuming you can find 4 clients and put them on a monthly retainer, you'd only have to charge them $250 each, and boom, that's $1,000 a month right there. And honestly, if you find the right clients, you should be able to charge them much more than this. Side hustle idea 4. Online coaching. This is Jack Jefferson. He decided to quit his $70,000 9-to-5 in London to pursue his online fitness coaching side hustle full time, as it had started generating him $7,000 a month. Now, you may be thinking that's only $14,000 more than his full-time job in London. However, now he has something even more valuable: freedom. He can now operate his side hustle from anywhere in the world as long as he has an internet connection, so he can check in with his clients and review their progress. Jefferson Training now has over 40 clients and is growing by the month. I get that not everyone is a gym expert and this might seem a little niche. However, notice how the title of this idea isn't online fitness coaching, it's online coaching. That's because there are countless things you can teach people online and get the same results as Jack. From my travels to Dubai and Miami recently, all the young millionaires I meet seem to be coming from the online coaching space. They all have some kind of info product and they're earning thousands. It's honestly an absolute goldmine. I've only started to notice this recently, as most of the millionaires I bumped into before this had their own physical products, like me with my range of radio control models. The world is absolutely changing. People really value online support and expertise. This industry just didn't exist when I was younger. Now it's time for those ratings. Firstly, how much time does online coaching take to learn? I'll give this a 2 out of 5, because if you already have a skill people are willing to pay for, then all you need to learn is how to package it up and sell it. Once you've created this process, you can then rinse and repeat the formula to get you thinking. Here's what Jack does. He starts off by conducting an in-depth onboarding session to understand the needs and goals of each client. He then crafts personalized nutrition plans detailing breakfast, lunch and dinner, alongside tailored fitness plans specifying both training and rest in days. He then sets up regular check-ins where he guides his clients through video feedback. I hope you can see how something like this can be easily adapted to lots of different types of coaching. I think the key to making good money relatively quickly is to offer a degree of personalization rather than just selling an online course, as people are pretty sick of those. Secondly, how much money do you need? I'd rate this a 1 out of 5, as all you need is your laptop and you're good to go. Of course, this does assume you have some kind of skill you can teach. It might cost you a bit more if you have to learn a skill first. Thirdly, how easy is it to make $1,000 per month? I'd rate this a 1 out of 5 on the difficulty scale, as from what I've seen, this is incredibly easy. People are lazy, so although they could probably learn this stuff from a book, they don't want to spend the time doing that. They would much rather spend some money and be spoon-fed the information. Remember, people pay for convenience. Side hustle idea 5, AI animation. This is Mercy. He's responsible for all the animations you see on my channel, and he's making $8,000 to $10,000 per month creating these for multiple clients. This side hustle is really interesting, as AI is the biggest thing to happen to technology since the internet. Just think how many billionaires that created. Despite the ongoing buzz, you might be surprised how few businesses have actually begun to use it. You see, there are 5 stages to technology adoption, and they look like this. First, you have the early innovators, which make up 2.5% of the people. They are the people that are willing to take a risk and go against the grain. They'd go out and buy the Samsung Fold or the new Apple Vision Pro on its first initial release. Second, we have the early adopters, making up 13.5% of the population. Similar to innovators, they're willing to take a risk. However, they prefer to test the product before forming an opinion and recommending it to others. Thirdly, we have the early majority, which is 34% of the population. These are the people that look at the product reviews before making a purchase. They want to see proof of it working before committing to it. This is the line where I believe we currently are with AI, at the very first stage of early majority adoption. This is followed by the late majority, making up another 34%, and finally the laggards, which is a surprising 16%. When you get to my age, you'll find that most people are in the laggards category. They like sticking with what they know, and they really don't want to learn anything new. Now, here's the important thing. Whether you like it or not, AI will go through this cycle. So let me ask you this very simple question. Would you rather embrace it now or wait for everyone else to get the benefits and end up having to use it anyway? There are so many creative ways to use AI, but let's go back to Mercy for a solid example. He uses tools like ChatGPT to help him script ideas out, and then uses Midjourney to bring his ideas to life. Let's get into the ratings. I'd give this a 4 out of 5. Although AI can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, Mercy still devoted months to mastering top-notch animation skills, which helped him land clients and build relationships to keep the cash flowing in. So I'd recommend mastering the core principles of animation and actively participating in industry networks to keep refining your skills. Secondly, how much money do you need? I'd give this a 1 out of 5. Because we're at an early stage in the adoption curve, it doesn't take a lot of expensive tools to stand out. When Mercy first started his side hustle, he managed to get featured on Andrew Tate's Instagram story because of some AI artwork he created. This gave him all the free promotion he needed to build a strong client base. This just shows that you don't need a lot of cash right now to make an impact. Thirdly, how easy is it to make $1,000 per month? I'd give this a 2 out of 5. As online creators are getting more and more popular, there is more money flooding into the space. Creators want to stand out, and by adding animations, it's a great way to make their videos look more premium and engaging. So get started now and get so far ahead that the late adopters can never catch you. Side hustle idea 6. Reselling luxury items. This is Ben Gallagher, a normal lad who started reselling luxury items online as a side hustle. In 2023, he generated £7.2 million through his business Lux Collective, and even recently appeared on Dragon's Den, which is a bit like Shark Tank, and received investment from Stephen Bartlett in exchange for a 3% equity stake. I'm so proud of how far he's come since appearing on my old podcast years ago. The luxury resale market soared to a whopping $39.23 billion in 2023, so it's no surprise that Ben is having so much success. The growing millennial population is driving a lot of this interest in luxury resale, along with social media culture increasing the importance of flexing designer labels. Reselling is a really cool side hustle, as now with the internet you're able to sell to anyone in the world, giving you access to a global marketplace. So let's look at the ratings. I'd give this a 4 out of 5, as Ben spent countless hours learning how to identify fakes, learning about the market, and scouting for the best purchases. Ben looks out for items from brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, Chanel, and even Hermes. Of course, you can imagine it's very important that he knows his stuff, as just one slip up could ruin his company's reputation. That anyone can learn from, but they're buried under so much filler content that it takes ages to get to the gold. So as a millionaire businessman myself, I wondered if I could use my knowledge to cut through all the waffle. That's why over the last 3 months, I've made it my mission to read all these books and note down the key points that will actually make you rich. So I've divided them into 4 categories: how to start with no money, how to sell anything to anyone, how to market your business, and how to manage your money like the 1%. Now, you may think some of these categories may not appeal to you, but trust me, put them together and they could make you a force to be reckoned with in the business world. Let's get on to the first section. So how to start with no money has got to be one of the most Googled questions ever. So let's dive into it. Step 1 is to find your strengths. This seems pretty obvious. However, society has conditioned us to actually focus on improving our weaknesses rather than doubling down on our strengths. But the reality is, you can be 10 times more successful if you focus on following the path of least resistance. In other words, the stuff you're already good at. Strength Finder 2.0 says your strengths come down to a simple equation: talent times investment equals strength. Let's use golf as an example. I enjoy playing at my local club. Although I'm not bad, I'm far from great. Suppose you took both Tiger Woods and me at the age of 13 and gave us the same amount of coaching and practice. I'm willing to bet that every hour he practiced would equate to about 10 of mine. This is because his inherent talent for the sport is significantly higher, giving him a larger multiplier. That's why this book is so great, as it helps you find your most powerful multiplier, so you can make more progress than others in a shorter amount of time. Once you start thinking of weaknesses as an expense you need to minimize, your time will become so much more effective. You can always find people who can make up for your weaknesses. How to win friends and influence people gives some great networking techniques you can try out. So before we move on, ask yourself this: have you been trying to become successful through fixing your weaknesses, or through developing and applying your innate strengths? Step 2, come up with an idea. Now that you understand the importance of playing to your strengths, it's equally as important to choose a business idea where you have an advantage. This is because every company that goes belly up has one thing in common: they couldn't outrun the competition. 0 to 1 was written by Peter Thiel, the man who sold PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion. What's even more impressive is that his original team, who received his personal mentorship, went on to establish companies like YouTube and LinkedIn. Given the number of successful businesses he's influenced, it's clear that he's mastered the secret of generating billion-dollar ideas. He says that billion-dollar business ideas come from betting on a contrarian truth. This is a real truth about how people will act in the future that they aren't aware of, or don't want to admit. Steve Jobs believed that we didn't want a keypad on our phone. Very few people agree with him, especially as BlackBerry was the most popular phone at the time, and that thing was literally riddled with buttons. I bet you guys don't even remember BlackBerries. But he believed in his vision and was rewarded after releasing the iPhone and changing the world forever. This isn't an isolated example. Uber believed that we would feel comfortable getting into a stranger's car, and Netflix believed we would want to binge watch TV shows. If you're struggling to come up with a contrarian truth, then give Start With Why a read, as it will get you thinking in the right kind of way. Perhaps you're not aiming to start a billion-dollar business, but consider the things you believe can be improved by adopting a slightly different approach. People will probably think you're crazy at first, but that's okay. Going against the grain lets you carve out a massive advantage before anyone else even notices what you're up to. This means you won't have to worry about competition for a very long time. Step 3 is create a plan. Now you know what you're good at and you've got your idea, you need to get very clear on how your business is going to be structured. Otherwise, you're just going to be running around like a headless chicken, not knowing where to focus your attention. Business model generation is a collective effort from 470 entrepreneurs, professors, and CEOs across 45 different countries. They were able to break down any business model into the essential 9 building blocks that make up any business. They believe that many business plans are overloaded with text and that using visuals can be much more powerful. Let's do it together so you can see how it's done. Rather than boring you with the cliche lemonade stand example, which, let's be real, no one's actually going to do that, I'm going to outline a business that I reckon could be a real winner right now. Let's call it Timmy's Membership Builders. Firstly, Timmy loves watching educational YouTubers, but gets frustrated because lots of the advice is generic and doesn't really apply to him. So Timmy decides this is what he wants to change. He wants to create a way YouTubers can interact with viewers on a more personal level by building their membership platforms. This is Timmy's value proposition. Next, Timmy needs to identify his customers. Assuming that approximately 0.1% of YouTube subscribers will want to join a membership, he should collaborate with YouTubers who have over 1 million subscribers. This strategy will generate enough value to justify his business venture. Now Timmy needs to figure out what channels he can use to reach his customers. He might choose email, DMs, or even physical letters. You're probably thinking, if a YouTuber has over 1 million subscribers, then they're going to be pretty hard to reach. But I can tell you from experience, if you have a good value proposition, then someone on their team will see your message. We aren't as unreachable as you might think. Building customer relationships is the hardest part. That's why Timmy may have to start off working for free to build up some case studies and then offer his first clients discounts for referring him to their friends. Focus less on what you can gain and more on what you can give, as this forms stronger relationships. If you're struggling, then you can always read Give and Take. Now consider revenue streams. Timmy could choose to charge a percentage of revenue for managing memberships, freeing up the YouTuber to concentrate on producing videos. If Timmy took a 10% cut from a membership of 10,000 people, each paying $5 a month, it would amount to $5,000 of monthly revenue. As the membership grows, this figure will increase. Now Timmy needs to work out what he needs to make this all happen. These include his key resources like a website, key activities such as advertising, and then key partnerships, which may include working closely with a developer. Finally, Timmy needs to calculate his costs. If he can do this business for less than what he expects to earn, then he's on the right track. If not, this evaluation will save him from disappointment in the future. That brings us to step 4, building a minimum viable product. The harsh truth is many entrepreneurs put their head down and work for months on a product, but don't realize that they're building something that no one actually wants to buy. The lean startup suggests that instead of working super hard to create the most polished product, you should create something called a minimum viable product, or MVP. What's great about this is that it doesn't actually have to cost you any money. The founder of Dropbox made a short video showing how his file storage solution worked and managed to increase his waiting list from 5,000 to 75,000 people in the space of a couple of days. The amazing thing about this story is that the video was fake. The product didn't even actually exist yet, but he was then able to use the waiting list to convince investors that it was a good idea, and then he was able to make it into a reality. There are so many ways that you can make a free MVP nowadays, especially with the help of AI. If you want some inspiration, then the ChatGPT Millionaire is a great little read. You could use your MVP to appeal to investors, launch a Kickstarter campaign, find a business partner, or bootstrap by reinvesting the profits back into building your business. The crucial point to keep in mind is that if you're starting with no money and looking for any kind of funding, you must provide undeniable proof of product demand. Step 5. Execute your vision. Now, having a plan, an idea, and an MVP isn't that precious. Lots of people make it to this stage, but what really matters is the execution. The crazy thing is, most people have the capacity to double or triple their income by consistently applying what they already know. The issue is, people don't put in the work. The 12-week year proposes a new way to get more done in 12 weeks than 12 months. It suggests that we should break our year into 4 and think of those quarters as our year. This may sound silly as it's still the same amount of time. However, this way of thinking forces you to confront your results every 3 months. I don't know about you, but personally, when I've got a deadline, I work a lot harder. My businesses have a different buzz around the office when we're nearing the end of the year. So by using this approach, instead of having that buzz of motivation once, we can have it 4 times a year. As Parkinson's law states, work expands to fit the amount of time we allocate to it. Therefore, applying the 12-week year approach, we can actually achieve more and make significant progress towards building the business you want. However, this 12-week approach only works if you respect your deadlines. If you're the type of person who battles with procrastination, then Extreme Ownership is worth a read. It's packed with Navy SEAL tactics to whip your discipline into shape. Can you handle the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Quick one from me before we get into the next section, and forgive my voice. I'm filming this a few days after, as I've been quite ill. One of the best ways to start an online business nowadays is to turn your skills, passions, and experiences into online courses, exclusive membership sites, subscription podcasts, thriving communities, personalized coaching, and more. These types of businesses are extremely cost effective to set up and run. They also have the upside of being extremely scalable. I know multiple people making millions using this business model, all from their laptop. If any of that sounds interesting, then Kajabi is the perfect tool for you. It's the ultimate all-in-one platform that helps people build successful online businesses by unlocking predictable recurring revenue. They're also sponsoring this portion of the video, but before you skip, if you're an entrepreneur, trust me, you'll want to listen to this. Recurring revenue is the holy grail in the business world. I mean, there's a reason why everything's turning into a subscription nowadays. If you know how much money's coming in every month, then it gives you the confidence you need to expand your business and eventually hire people without worrying too much about your cash flow. Kajabi is a great choice as they don't take a cut from your revenue because everything is owned and controlled by you, so you keep 100% of what you earn. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then right now Kajabi is offering a free 30-day trial to start your business if you go to kajabi.com/mark. So go to kajabi.com/mark and join the creators and entrepreneurs who have collectively made over $7 billion. Right, let's get back to the books. So, how to sell anything to anyone. This section isn't just important for business, but in all aspects of your life. Maybe you want to persuade your friend to help you, your boss to listen to you, or even your parents to give you more pocket money. The reality is, we're all selling in some way, although some of us are much better skilled at it than others. Step 1, set the frame. Believe it or not, most people fail before they even ask for what they want because they don't warm up whoever they're talking to before trying to persuade them. Persuasion shares techniques you can use to make people more receptive towards your request before even asking. In this book, there's a story about a consultant who was having a hard time because people kept asking for discounts on his services. So he came up with a clever trick. Before he'd tell them his price, he'd joke, well, as you can see, I can't exactly charge you $1 million for this. After he started using this joke, guess what? No one asked for a discount anymore, and he could happily charge $75,000 for his expertise. This sneaky little trick is called price anchoring. It's all about that first piece of information, or the anchor, that people latch onto. They then base their understanding of everything else around that. Framing, however, extends far beyond what we say. Non-verbal communication makes up 55% of all communication, and much of that is influenced by how we dress. That's why I recommend considering some of the advice in this little book, Style the Man. Remember, don't be in a hurry when it comes to setting the frame before asking for what you want. Trust me, using these strategies can flip the whole scenario in your favor. Step 2 is build rapport. The art of the deal starts with Trump taking us through a week in his life. The thing that struck out to me was the sheer amount of calls he took per day. We're talking between 50 and 100 calls. This habit of regular check-ins kept Trump at the forefront of people's minds. So when a business deal came up that was advantageous for Trump, or he had something to sell, it was easier to close the deal due to his multiple nurtured connections. Today, we can achieve this by building a personal brand on social media. Gary Vee emphasizes this in his book, Crushing It. Having a personal brand increases our touch points with people before we attempt to sell anything to them, therefore increasing the likelihood of future sales. Remember, people do business with people they like. Step 3, become more persuasive. So now you've set the frame and built the rapport, you need to be able to persuade people to give you what you want. To sell is human. Argues that the most effective way to do this is to attune with your prospect. I know that sounds a bit wishy-washy, but the experiment the book talks about makes this all start to come together. 152 students were instructed to negotiate the sale of a gas station. They were divided into 2 main groups, buyers and sellers. The buyer group was further split into 3 subgroups. The first subgroup was instructed to focus on being empathetic to the sellers, the second on the seller's thoughts, and the third on their own role. The highest number of successful deals came from the subgroup that focused on understanding the seller's thoughts. Great deals always come when the buyers and sellers are in tune with each other. Pitch Anything makes a solid point that when most people pitch, they're too busy thinking about what they want and not what their prospects are thinking. They assume that the audience care as much about their business as they do, but here's the harsh truth: they don't. Step 4, collaborate effectively. Now that you're attuned to each other, what if you could transform a sales negotiation into a collaboration instead of a one-sided process? Well, Never Split the Difference suggests you can by asking something called calibrated questions. Once you both feel like you understand each other, you can then start using this technique as it directs the other person's attention towards your problems. These types of questions normally start with what or how, with the ultimate question being, how am I supposed to do that? Let's say your landlord was going to put up your rent to $1,700 a month and you didn't want to pay that much. You could say, it seems like you think your house is undervalued, but how am I supposed to pay $1,700 a month when I only make enough money to afford $1,500 a month? The key is to say it in a genuine way that doesn't seem confrontational. They should hear, I value your intelligence. Can you please help me solve my problem? Asking this type of question will make the other person think creatively or even lower their price. It's not a magic trick and it won't always work, but it's definitely worth giving it a shot. And here's a quick tip. If you're on the receiving end of this tactic, never let another person's problems become your problems. Understand them for sure, but remember, it's not your job to solve them. Or you might just find yourself caught in this trap. Good questions are really a superpower. That's why it's worth giving Better Small Talk a read. Step 5 is closing the deal. You must never ever leave a conversation with a potential buyer without a firm commitment. Otherwise, all the hard work will be for nothing. Objections, the ultimate guide for mastering the art and science of getting past no, recommends getting the potential buyer to agree to a specific action on a fixed date. This is known as micro commitment. When trying to secure a commitment, be prepared for potential objections. For instance, if someone says, I'm quite busy, how about you call me next week to arrange something? A possible response could be, My week is also looking pretty packed, and I want to make sure I can dedicate the appropriate amount of time for our discussion to ensure you don't miss out. Can we schedule our meeting right now? Would Friday at 3:30 work for you? Obviously, you can adjust the time to whatever works for you, but see how that question makes it much easier for the other person to say yes rather than objecting again. Of course, a bit of charisma can always help close a deal as well. Just think of the most popular closer on the TV show Suits, Harvey Specter. Interestingly, the actor is completely different from his role in the show, so this proves that charisma can be faked to some degree. If you're interested in learning more about this, consider reading The Charisma Myth. So how to market your business. Let's face it, you could have the best product or service in the world, but what's the use if nobody knows about it? Step 1 is developing your unique selling proposition. Ever found yourself wondering why some businesses explode and others just don't? Why people rave about one business and ignore another? Well, Purple Cow believes that the key is being remarkable. Every marketer is traditionally aware of the 5 Ps: product, positioning, pricing, publicity, and promotion. However, this book introduces a 6th P, the Purple Cow. I know this might sound a bit strange, but stick with me. Imagine you're driving along a country road and you see a brown cow grazing. It's so common that you hardly notice it, much like the barrage of everyday marketing and advertising. Now, imagine instead seeing a purple cow. You'd stop the car, you'd get out, you'd take a selfie with it. It's noteworthy and you can't help but talk about it. Imagine if your business was like that purple cow, compelling people to talk about it. So think about what makes your business unique. What do you do better than anyone else? What unique value do you offer to your customers? Lots of businesses are using TikTok and YouTube to stand out, especially restaurants who are coming up with unique dishes that they're using as purple cows to draw in customers. If you want to dive more into creating videos, then YouTube Secrets, which is down here, just like that, gives you a really good insight into making viral content. Step 2, gather real-world data. If you want any hope marketing your product or service, then you need to know what people think about it. However, this is where most people make the mistake of asking the people closest to them for their thoughts. This results in them just giving you blind encouragement and generic support, which might be good for boosting your ego, but it won't help you market your product. The Mum Test offers a solution to this problem. It says that instead of saying, "Here's my business, what do you think?" you should instead ask about their life in the context of your business. I know this sounds confusing, but let me give you an example. Say you are starting an online course business that teaches people how to play the piano from the comfort of their own home. Instead of asking your friends and family if they like the idea, talk about them. If they play the piano, you could ask about the initial challenges they faced, the solutions they seeked out, and any frustrations they had with the solutions they found. If they don't play the piano, you could slightly tweak the questions. This is an extremely smart way to get useful data on your business, as it's almost impossible for anyone, even your mum, to give you blind support and encouragement. You can use this information to help identify blue oceans, which are areas of a market with low competition but very high demand. Step 3, establish your brand message. Despite having a USP and the necessary data, many new entrepreneurs struggle to capture the attention of potential customers. People don't like feeling sold to, and because of this, it's hard to get someone to listen long enough to actually get them to want to buy from you. Building a story brand says the solution is using a specific story structure in your marketing that cuts through the noise and holds people's attention. You first need to create a character. This character isn't your business, it's your target customer. This is because everyone sees themselves as the main character in their story. You need to make it very clear what this character wants. At this stage, it's best to stick to the universal desires like building wealth and status, higher quality relationships, or increased health. Next, your character should face a specific problem related to your product that they want to overcome. For instance, If you're running a piano teaching business, the external problem they'd want to overcome is not being good enough at playing the piano. Their internal struggle might be questioning their own abilities and if they're good enough. Here you can introduce your business as their guide to overcoming this problem and share past success stories to establish your authority. Both these elements build trust in you and your business. You need to be able to get this message across in multiple formats, but one of the most crucial is with writing. That's why it's worth giving Copywriting Secrets a read. The main takeaway here is to portray your potential customers as heroes in your marketing. This narrative structure, commonly known as the hero's journey, is frequently used in TV shows and films. If you make people into the hero of your story, they'll sit up and listen. Once you've sold to someone once, it's so much easier to sell to them again with the right strategy. That's why step 4 is create upsells. It's actually shocking how many businesses are leaving so much money on the table by not using this technique. .com Secrets teaches you exactly how to build a value ladder and sell higher priced products and services to your existing customers. You've probably already seen this in action at your local dentist and not even thought about it. Normally, a dental practice starts off by selling you a simple checkup. Next, they might offer you teeth cleaning, then teeth whitening. After that, a retainer, and before you know it, they've pushed you all the way up the ladder to their most expensive product, cosmetic surgery. This approach can be applied to any business you're starting. If customers have a great experience with your lower priced products, they're likely to continue climbing the ladder. It's also important to remember, if you don't provide options for them to spend more money with you, they may end up going to one of your competitors. Ideally, you shouldn't have to upsell people face to face. Expert Secrets outlines a way you can use the perfect webinar model to upsell many people at once whilst keeping that personal feel. But how do you make sure you never run out of customers to climb your value ladder? That's where step 5 comes in, driving up demand. If you followed all of the steps so far, you should have plenty of demand. But instead of trying to sell to everyone, you could try and limit your product or service and increase the price. Oversubscribed states that every product that is oversubscribed has people that didn't get it, even though they were willing to buy it. Rolex has mastered this strategy better than most. If you want to purchase a new Rolex, you have to visit an authorized store, join a long waiting list, and patiently wait. This process can take up to 4 years before you're offered the chance to buy a watch. Some people never receive the call as Rolex doesn't deem them the right customer for their brand. Does this sound a bit snobby? Possibly, but does it work? Absolutely. If your product is seen as oversubscribed, competition becomes less of a concern and you have the flexibility to set your prices as you see fit. It's all about following the don't make me think principle. You've got to make it very easy for your customers to understand your website and messaging. So, how to manage your money like the 1%. This section is absolutely crucial. You won't believe how many people are amazing at almost everything else, but struggle when it comes to handling their cash. This is a big reason why 1 out of every 3 people earning over 100 grand a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. Step 1, monitor your finances. The Total Money Makeover, while not specifically focused on business finances, it does offer some valuable principles for keeping your money under control, which can be applied to business finances as well. Here's the major takeaway for all you entrepreneurs. Keep a sharp eye on your finances. It's so easy to get caught up in the daily hustle and bustle of running your business that you lose sight of your numbers. And before you know it, you're in a financial pickle without even realizing it. Think about it, financial laziness is a lot sneakier than physical laziness. It's not like you're forced to confront it every time you look in the mirror. You can just brush it under the rug and only start panicking when it's too late. So if you feel like you've lost touch with your financial situation, here's a little reality check for you. Ask yourself this: if all your revenue stopped coming in tomorrow, could you keep your business afloat for at least 3 months? If the answer's no, then sorry to break it to you, but you're financially out of shape. It's time to hit the financial gym. That brings us on to step 2, remain profitable. You might think being profitable is the same as being financially stable, but I'm going to be sharing with you all the strategies that actually work for me, as well as lots of my mistakes that hopefully you can do even better. This is the story of how I went from a small English town down to the rolling hills of San Francisco and the bustling city of Shanghai, China, including all the challenges I faced along the way. Who knows, by watching this video to the end, it may open up a new pathway for you that you might want to walk down. You'll also find out why a simple desk like this can mean so much to me. If that sounds good, then give that like button a smash and strap in for the wild ride that is my life. Let me take you back to 1985. That's the last time I walked out of those gates. I was 16 years old, I was tall, skinny, and I had ginger hair. And I was broke, unfortunately. But I knew I wanted to make my mark on the world, and there was no way I could do that sitting in lessons, learning about things I wasn't interested in. So I went out to seek my fortune. But before we get there, let me take you back to my teen years. I was always looking to make money. I know it's a little cliche, but when I was a teen, my main side hustle was selling candy and cans of soda to all the other kids in the playground. On the weekend, I would also go fishing and catch hundreds of mackerel, which I sold around the neighbourhood. I remember knocking on every single door possible. I was offering a great deal, 10 fish for $1, but unfortunately no one wanted 10 fish. So I was forced to go back to the drawing board and restructure my business with a new strategy. I decided from now on I'll be selling 5 fish for $1, and I was shocked by the results. Everyone wanted some. Looking back now, these years were so important as I was practicing some of the most important life skills out there, sales and confidence. Without these skills, I don't think I'd have been able to achieve success in later life. So if you just take one thing from this video, then it should be to start honing your sales skills and being confident. This brings me back to these school gates. When I left here, I had several paths that I could follow. I decided I wanted a 9-to-5 job. I needed to learn a skill that would set me up for life. Going to work at 9 AM and finishing at 5 PM was the life that school had been drilling into me for years. So I really threw myself into it and actually lined up 5 different jobs because I was so keen to be successful. I had the choice between being a builder, an electrician, a refrigeration engineer, a shop assistant, or a carpenter's apprentice. It was a tough decision, but in the end, I decided on becoming a carpenter. The pay wasn't great at around $2 an hour, but I was learning a skill and I could see the potential for moving up in the company, and I really thought that this was my ticket to success. I really threw myself into my carpentry apprenticeship and I learned everything I could. I even won leadership awards, and I really felt like I was moving forward with my life. I finished my apprenticeship with honours from the college and thought, here we go. All the big jobs are coming my way. But unfortunately, my manager seemed to take a dislike to me. Maybe he started to feel a little bit threatened by my success and therefore decided to give me all the bad jobs. For months on end, he assigned me to making wooden trash cans in the back room. This gave me no ability to show off my skills that I'd learned and prevented me from working my way up the company to a higher paid job. I thought to myself, I hadn't really studied all this time to make wooden trash cans. Nowadays, it's a sort of repetitive job a robot would do. What was even worse is when I looked around the workshop, I saw many other people doing lots more interesting jobs. So I asked to speak to the manager, and where we're filming this is the exact spot where we stood. I said I needed more of a challenge. I couldn't keep making these bins. And you know what he said to me? He said, you're making these bins today, you'll be making these bins tomorrow. We got a 5-year contract with Walmart. You're going to be making a lot of these bins. Now that's when I realised I was completely powerless working a 9-to-5 job at the mercy of whoever was in charge. The pay was only just enough to cover my bills, which meant I couldn't just quit, but I was also unable to save any money. I was essentially trapped. So I got a Saturday job working in a radio control model shop. I also started a side hustle flipping cars, which basically consisted of finding underpriced cars, fixing them up and then selling them for a profit. To this day, I still own this Ford Fiesta XR2 Mark I. It's a 1985 model, and the cars I was buying at that stage were costing me $200 to $300, and I was usually flipping them for I say $500 to $600. This little beauty's worth a little bit more than that now though. As well as doing all of this, I was also teaching people to fly radio controlled helicopters on a Sunday. There was a huge demand at the time, and all Sunday I would be booked out as long as the weather was good. Having these multiple side hustles allowed me to finally build out some kind of emergency fund. This is so important as it gives you the freedom to take advantage of any opportunities that come your way without having to worry about paying your bills. There is a huge opportunity opportunity cost that comes from living paycheck to paycheck, as you're so focused on next month's wage that you end up going through life with your eyes half closed and passing up on many opportunities without even knowing it. One day at work, the boss asked if anyone wanted to help install this beautiful staircase at a customer's house. I jumped at the chance. It was one of the most impressive houses that I'd ever seen. It had everything. I'm talking marble floors, chandeliers, a private swimming pool, and a garage full of beautiful sports cars. It was my dream house. I started daydreaming and adding up how many years it would take me to earn enough money to buy a place like this. And I got gradually more and more demoralised, as even with all my side hustles, I realised I still would never have enough money. It was so close, but just so far at the same time, and I felt there was really nothing more I could do to achieve it. I was absolutely exhausted, physically and mentally. I was working every hour of every day. While installing the staircase, I would often look out of the window and see the owner relaxing in the garden or going off to play golf, and I really couldn't understand how this guy managed to have the life that he wanted and go and have fun whenever he wished. So I had to ask him a few questions, and he told me all about how running his business gave him the ability to make money while he slept. This is when I first discovered passive income. I'd never thought this was really possible for me, as school had only ever taught me one way of making money, and that was working a normal job. This concept of making passive income was so alien to me, but it really got the wheels turning in my mind. If this was a normal guy and he was able to do all this, then I was pretty sure that I could do it too. I started thinking back to my school years and selling those fish. That was my first real experience of running a small business, and I'd loved every second of it, from sourcing to selling the product. I couldn't believe that I'd been suppressing this for years and trying to conform to what society wanted me to do. Nowadays, passive income has become a bit of a buzzword on the internet, and I don't completely agree with the term, as it can sound a little misleading. Kickstarting passive income is certainly not an easy thing to do, but the idea is that you can do something once, like setting up a business or investing some money, and then earn from it even when you're not working. Of course, this requires some maintenance, but in my opinion, it's a better way to make money than working a 9-to-5 job if you want to be successful when you're younger, as your time is limited and therefore your income is capped. So now I knew that passive income was the answer. I devised a plan of escape. To have the best chance of success, I knew it was important to create a business in an industry that I was both familiar with and also passionate about. And I was lucky, I had the perfect idea. The shop I was working in on Saturdays was a radio controlled model store. Over the years that I'd been working there, I spotted lots of things they could be doing differently and all the mistakes that they were making. I researched and found the perfect location for a store. I even came up with the perfect name, which was inspired by an old TV show I used to watch when I was younger, Model World. I could really see the potential with this shop and how it would eventually operate without me even having to be there, essentially creating passive income. It finally gave me some hope and direction while I was working my normal job, as I knew that it was now only a temporary situation. Unfortunately, not a lot of people believed in me. I came from a working class background and I had little to no qualifications, so no one thought I'd be able to break into the market, except for one of my friends, who I told my entire plan to. I couldn't wait to quit my job and get started, so I could prove everyone wrong. I just needed to get enough money together first. Within a few months, Model World Shop was up and running. But it was nothing to do with me. My friend had stolen my idea and done it himself. I felt so betrayed and frustrated that I'd trusted him with all my plans. I even started thinking to myself that maybe being an entrepreneur wasn't actually right for me. I was stuck in my 9-to-5 job, being ordered around by my manager, with every bit of hope shattered. The worst part was watching my friend living my dream. I felt like a sprinter chained up in the starting blocks, unable to release all that energy. It was one of the worst feelings in my life. The whole future I built in my head started to come crashing down. Looking back, this was a great life lesson for me, although I didn't see it like that at the time. If you have a great idea, then it's best to operate in the shadows. Maybe tell parts of your plans to different people, but don't give the whole game away like I did. After this huge setback, I decided to pick myself up and keep working. I grinded as hard as I could and bought my first apartment to build up my credit score. I thought I was working hard before, but this was really the next level. I worked every hour under the sun, as I wasn't going to let my financial situation leave me open to having my dreams taken away from me again. This just shows the path to passive income is by no means easy. There can be a lot of setbacks along the way, but if you stay focused, then opportunities will present themselves. As if by magic, one day I heard some great news that my friend wanted to sell Model World. I'd visited a few times and noticed that he wasn't giving it the attention it needed. It had huge potential, but his passions were not in the business. I knew I needed to buy the shop and get my dreams back on track. This was the opportunity that I'd been preparing myself for, and I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers again. I had a little bit of money behind me, but it still wasn't going to be enough. Nowhere near enough, but I'd built up a good credit score, so I thought, I know what, I'll leverage the money I had and see if I can get a bank loan. He'd taken my great idea, he'd taken my name, but the one thing he couldn't take from me was my passion, and I knew that was the secret ingredient to making this business a great passive income generating machine. So I created the best business plan I could and got a meeting with the bank. I'd banked there since I was a kid and I had a good credit score, so I was hoping that everything would go smoothly.
Within 10 minutes, I'd been denied the loan. It was the worst interview of my life. I felt like I'd been kicked out of the bank. It was unreal. My head was down. I was walking back to my car. And do you know what? I really didn't know what to do. It was like being back at that house again. So close, yet so far. I had to pick myself up. And as luck would have it, the next building I stumbled on was this bank here. I hustled my way in and I got a meeting right there and then with the manager.
He actually said it was a very interesting idea and not only gave me the loan but promised to be one of my first customers. I have since asked him what made him take a chance on me, and he said he was always eager to help out the younger generation, and when he saw how passionate and hard-working I was, he just couldn't say no. This is a perfect example of where preparation and resilience meets opportunity. You never know when your next stroke of luck is around the corner, and for me it quite literally was just around the corner. So without any hesitation, I closed the deal on Model World, the rights to the name and all the products they had. It was finally mine. I knew the hard work was yet to come, but it was mine. The first day I opened the shop, I had a sleeping bag behind the counter because I knew if I didn't make enough money that day, I'd be sleeping there because I certainly didn't have enough gas to drive the car home. Luckily, the first day was a great success. All the selling and negotiation skills I'd learned when I was younger came in really useful. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to make my business profitable.
After 3 years, we turned over $1 million, and it was crazy. It was crazy times, but it was good fun times, and we had more challenges along the way. After 10 years, we had 3 shops and a warehouse stuffed full of gear, but we wanted to be number one, so we had plans to push on even more.
I was generating millions in passive income and I felt like I'd finally made it, but I didn't realise just how open I was to losing everything. When it seems to be going amazingly well, you can start to get a little complacent as it seems like nothing can stand in your way. This is really dangerous as you stop innovating and take your eye off the ball. I was